Good morning and welcome to Monday morning, the 31st of January. Another 1 month out of 12 gone already. Doesn't take long. Wearing out all the hoodies with the temperatures that we're getting and trying to stay warm. Today's devotion is entitled In His Arms and referring to Mark 9:36 as well as Mark 10:16. I'm going to skip the song lyrics this morning. We read twice in Mark that Jesus held the little children in his arms. If indeed the Gospels only represent 9% of his life, then the actual number would be, no doubt, skyrocket. It is clear that Jesus routinely held children and blessed them. What sort of person routinely embraces other people's children? What sort of person takes the time to open the door of their life to children when those around them have decided that they are clearly too important to be bothered? In Mark 9, he had just told them that he is going to be killed and raised on the third day in verse 31. Mark tells us they were afraid to ask him about this. What they are not afraid to do, however, is argue among themselves about which one of them was the greatest. Verse 34. This causes Jesus to take a little child. I like to think, he puts in parentheses, I like to think they were in Peter's house and it might have been his daughter. One tradition gives her name as Petronella. That's tradition, not scripture. End of the parentheses. Whoever welcomes one of these little ones in my name welcomes me. Unquote. Jesus says, radically identifying himself not with the greatest, but with those who are regarded as most insignificant in the culture. It is one of those parabolic moments, and Peter apparently never forgot it. In response to their selfish argument, Jesus embraces a child. This is the greatness in my kingdom, he says, in effect. Just a few verses later, we see Jesus holding children once more. Their parents are requesting that Jesus offer a rabbinic blessing that would have carried with it a prophetic pronouncement, like Jacob blessing his sons in Genesis 49. In the decades that followed, as the rabbinic movement took hold, Jesus lived in what we refer to as the proto-rabbinic period. This would become the solemn duty of the local rabbi. Jesus' blessing the children here probably would have been less austere and more tender. It is not yet a formal role, but the gracious act of a revered traveling teacher. The 12 see this as a waste of his time. In contrast, we see Jesus' tender, almost childlike availability. In the disciples' eyes, he is too important because they see themselves as being important. That is why they were arguing about who was greatest. How dare the disciples take it upon themselves to decide who gets to approach Jesus and who does not? And how dare we do the same thing? This person is not clever enough. This person is not attractive enough or important enough or is a foreigner or poor. But Jesus puts up no walls. He is open to anyone who wants or needs him. He is ready to place his hands on the least and the lost, on the unimportant and the lonely. He is always ready to pronounce the baraka, the blessing that tells who we are, or at least who we might become, if we will receive his grace and become his children, waiting to be blessed. Over and over again, that picture is painted, that the greatest in the kingdom is the humble, the most humble, the children, the ones that we may, back in those days anyway, consider that they had no influence, no power, no importance. And yet for Jesus, they seem to be the most important. Let's remember that when we're dealing with people, talking to them, considering them, hopefully not assessing them and putting them in their place in our minds, but to recognize that the kingdom has a different value system than the world's. Blessings to all of you today.